Good afternoon. My name is Donald Christian. I have the great privilege of serving as president here at the State University of New York at New Paltz, and I'm pleased to welcome everyone to our beautiful campus here today. For those of you beyond the Hudson Valley, welcome to this wonderful region of the state. Lieutenant Governor Hochul, a special welcome to you. Thank you for being here today. We're pleased to be joined by elected officials, other state and local government officials, members of the press and the public, and faculty and staff here at SUNY New Paltz. If you have a chance to walk around our campus today, I encourage you to have a look at some of the construction and renovation underway. We're in the midst of a very exciting $160 million round of new building construction and major renovation that is really transforming our campus. One of the important functions of a college or university is to exercise our convening power and to share our facilities to bring people and groups together for the sharing of important information. We're pleased today to host this visit by the Lieutenant Governor for an important announcement of an initiative that will bring great benefit to our region. I'm also pleased to introduce a number of elected and other officials joining us today. First, Audrey Zibelman, Chairwoman of New York State Public Service Commission. Jeffrey Nordhaus, Executive Vice President of Innovation and Broadband, Empire State Development. Michael Hine, Ulster County Executive. Hector Rodriguez, Majority Leader, Ulster County Legislature. Chris Allen, Ulster County Legislature. Tracy Bartels, Ulster County Legislature. Jennifer Schwartz-Berkey, Ulster County Legislature. Carl Chipman, Supervisor, Town of Rochester. Gene Walsh, Supervisor, Town of Rosendale. Mary Beth Majestic, Supervisor, Town of Gardner. And Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council members Jonathan Drapkin and James Taylor. Without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce my good friend and an exceptional public leader who I often introduce as my very favorite county executive, Ulster County Executive Michael Hine, who will offer a few words and introduce the Lieutenant Governor.
I will tell you, he's also my favorite SUNY University president as well. One of the things that's really important for us to understand is how special this place is. So again, to Dr. Christian, I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you do here, how extraordinarily special this is, and how fortunate we are as a county to be a host for a place like SUNY New Paltz. Thank you so much. It truly is a special place. And our county is an extraordinary place as well. And that's why each and every one of you are here. And for those of you who live here, you know that. For those of you who do not live here, I'm sorry, but you can move here. One of the things that we talk about on a regular basis is making sure that we take actions that are strong for our economy, making sure that we have quality jobs for our community, making sure that small and mid-sized and large corporations can all thrive, because we understand in many ways that can be the heartbeat of not only a great community, but a great state as well. We're fortunate to have a governor that understands that, and that's why we're excited to be here for tonight's announcement, for today's announcement, because we understand how important it is. When we think of basic utilities in our homes, we take for granted things like electricity. We take for granted things like phone. The idea of high-speed broadband and what that can mean to a community is critically important. It is now the next century's utility. It's a basic. It's required for residents in all parts of our community as well as for our economy. And so I'm excited about today's opportunity to really hear about the future, and that's what it is all about. We're talking about the future. We believe that New York truly can lead. We're excited to have the commitment of the governor, And ladies and gentlemen, it always gives me great pleasure to be the person to introduce our Lieutenant Governor. She's an amazing human being, an individual who continually gives selflessly to the people of New York State. Her travel schedule, by the way, in case you are wondering, is nothing short. I'm pretty sure there's cloning involved, because I don't know how she can be in all these places at the same time. But she also went out of her way to be here early today so she could see the Strive project, where we provide access to higher education with a satellite campus next to an inner city high school. She came because she wanted to see that herself. She also wanted to see firsthand the Patriots Project, where we end homelessness in Ulster County for our veterans population. She didn't have to do those things. She went out of her way because it was important to her, because she cares about the people of New York. And so, as we talk about the residents of New York, our economy, and our future, it gives me an extraordinary amount of pleasure to recognize the Lieutenant Governor of the State of New York, my friend, Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, County Executive, and I heard you're the first and only, and after you, they're going to retire the title of County Executive because you're the one who's defined it in this county, so you've done a phenomenal job. And it was a great pleasure to be able to see your community through your eyes, and the vision that you had years ago when you probably thought you were swimming uphill to create this whole vision to transform an abandoned school into a place of opportunity and bring higher education literally to a neighborhood that was in dire need. So I congratulate you on that project, the Strive project, but also what you've done for homeless veterans, literally eradicating the specter of homelessness for veterans in this county. And what I saw this morning truly should be a model for other counties, and I will share the good news of what you're doing here in Ulster as I travel the state. And as you mentioned, I've traveled it a few times. My staff actually calculated that I've been around the globe twice in the past year. So, and I said, you know what, let's do it 3 times. So, but I love coming to communities like this. First of all, it is spectacularly beautiful. You only need to walk outside and be struck with the awesome beauty of nature that this area is blessed with. And to stroll around the campus this morning with President Christian, your pride is also so apparent, and not just what you're doing to integrate this great institution with the neighboring community, but also to give young people a chance. And that's what this educational opportunity is all about. And we had a chance to tour your 3D printer and I never knew what a 3D printer was until I got this job, and now I realize that is transforming the ability for creative people who get an education here to take their ideas and take them to market and to commercialize. And so it is really amazing what I see going on here. So I feel blessed to have this position on behalf of the governor to go to communities and places like this. We also are very fortunate to have our PSC chairperson here, Audrey Zibelman, and Vice President of ESD, Jeff Nordhaus. Their entire broadband team of what they're doing for the state of New York will go down in history as nothing short of transformative. And you will say, I was there. I was there the day we took the first major steps toward taking our state, parts of it, out of the dark ages and into the light. And I'm so happy to be joined by both of you. I'll be giving much more detail about what this proposal is, but it was a year ago on one of my very first adventures, I'd have to call it, on behalf of the governor. I was flown in a snowstorm, landing on, I'm not sure we really landed at an airport, I think it was a field up in the Adirondacks, to announce that the governor was going to try through the budget to get a $500 million commitment to say we'll put up this much money, more than any state in the nation, to make not just broadband, but access to high-speed broadband a reality for people all over the state. So I made that announcement. I made it home safely, but I wanted to announce here today, because the governor believes that all New Yorkers deserve a chance at economic opportunity, and this should be home to any business in the nation who wants to come here and start an opportunity here right in the state of New York, because what is missing for so many parts of the state and parts of this country is this high-speed access to broadband. And I will tell you, just yesterday, part of my travels, I found myself in Chelsea, New York City. I walked through the mammoth building known as Google. You have to have roller skates to get to this building. It took me forever. But they told me that there's no way they would have come to New York State but for the fact that where they selected had access to high-speed broadband. And not only did they exceed their employment expectations, the CEOs had thought, hey, how many do we have? A few thousand employees? They're up to 5,700 employees, and they are growing. That is because what has become not just a luxury anymore, but a basic necessity of doing business is a reality in that area. So I would say that New York City is doing well. Long Island is doing well. Westchester is doing well. The problem has been when you go further north. When you come to Westchester, you go further north to the North Country, you go west where I'm from to Buffalo, it is a different story. And we are so fortunate to have a governor who believes that there is more to this state than simply downstate. There is an entire part of this state that deserves the attention and the resources that have been neglected for decades. So he has spent his entire tenure trying to reverse that narrative, that dynamic. And part of it is to make sure that we have access in every corner of the state to high-speed broadband. So today, because of that commitment, we are announcing that with the first phase is now beginning. As of today, the RFPs will be available online, and we're willing to accept we're going to accept the RFPs by March 1st, I believe. March 1st, is that our deadline? March 1st? You'll get more details, but it is starting. This is not just a pipe dream. We are prepared now to take New York State to the next level and to be competitive with any state in the nation when it comes to attracting and keeping businesses. That's what this is about. But it's not just about the business side. It is also about people's lives. Because I've been to communities. I used to represent in Congress some of the most rural parts of the state of New York, in places where there are 3 times as many cows as there are citizens, and that's okay. I wish the cows could vote, but they don't. But what I saw there were farmers who the only access to market they had was the fruit stand at the end of their driveway. Now they'll be able to have access to markets not just nationally but around the globe. And I also heard stories when I was in the North Country a year ago. The son of an elected official had to go with his parents every night to sit in the car in the parking lot of the local library to get access to internet to do his homework. And they were asking me, how are we going to apply for financial aid for college when it all is done electronically? How is a young entrepreneur who comes up with a brilliant idea able to come up with this, put it on the market, if they don't have access to broadband? This is going to be a game changer, ladies and gentlemen. This is a game-changing day and a game-changing development. And I will close with this part by just simply saying, when I was at Google yesterday, they acquired YouTube. Fascinating to see their studios. They told me the story of how there was a woman who had been impoverished. She was on public assistance. She didn't have much of a future, but the one thing she could do, she knew how to knit. And someone introduced her to the idea of going and showing how to do knitting classes on YouTube. She garnered such a large following that advertisers wanted to pay her to be on that site. So now she's got this huge following. She's a rock star to the knitting world, and she's able to support herself. So think about that. If she did not have the right access to the right speed internet, this woman would be someone we needed to take care of as a state and as a people. She is now independent financially. That story can be replicated all over the state of New York, and that is why this is such a significant announcement. But you get a twofer today. You get a twofer today. There is another significant announcement, which I'm really delighted on behalf of the governor to make, and that is earlier this morning, the Public Service Commission has announced the approval of a merger between Time Warner Cable and Charter Communications. And this is the first merger since the governor proactively strengthened the laws with respect to mergers to make sure that the public interest is paramount. And they have met the threshold that these individuals have for making sure that this is in the best interest of the public. And because of this, and you'll hear more details, but you'll be very proud at the deal that was struck, because there is going to be requirements that there is access to areas of the state that before did not make financial sense for companies to go to. They will now be going there. But secondarily, there will be a guarantee of a low-cost alternative for people. So if you are an individual who does not have the resources to spend a lot of money on your internet accessibility, you're now going to have that chance. And that is, again, a game changer for so many people, for that young person who graduates from this great institution, who goes home to their community and says, I have an idea. I want to take it to the internet market, and I have to have access. That's what's going to happen now. You are here. I'm proud of that. I'm delighted that you're here, and you are going to be able to say, again, I witnessed the beginning, the end of the dark ages. The end of the dark ages as we shine new light on the future of New Yorkers because of Governor Andrew Cuomo. And with that, it gives me great privilege to introduce our chairperson of the Public Service Commission. Are you next? Or Jeff? Oh, Jeff. Okay, well then I will not introduce her. I will introduce Empire State Development Vice President Jeff Nordhaus to give you more details about the broadband announcement, and then the chairwoman will be able to explain more about the merger. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Nordhaus from ESD, and I'm managing the broadband program. It's great to see so many familiar faces, and for those of you who might don't know, I hope to have time to speak with you after these presentations today. I'd like to first thank Lieutenant Governor for joining us here today. It's an honor to have you here at this important announcement, and thank you for your comments about the importance of broadband. Thank you to Ulster County Executive Mike Hine for joining, and to SUNY New Paltz President Don Christian for hosting us here today. Also, I'd like to welcome and recognize Adam Spence in the back of the room, Assistant Secretary for Economic Development and Innovation, who's been a tireless champion of broadband. And of course, to the broadband team who's here today, I hope you'll have a chance to meet some of them. It's great to have such a terrific turnout for these transformative announcements that we're making today on broadband, and for the exciting news to follow from PSC Chair Zibelman. We are here today because Governor Cuomo, the Lieutenant Governor, and other New York State leaders recognize, as was just noted in a lot of great detail and great examples, that in today's economy, broadband is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. It is clear that a modern broadband network is essential to economic growth and commerce. Before diving into the details of the program that we're going to unveil today, let's say a few words about broadband. It was noted earlier that broadband is similar to electricity and phone service a century ago. It's a utility. More than that, broadband represents a critical foundation for economic growth, job creation, and a better way of life. Across industries, broadband is redefining how we provide education and healthcare, how we manage energy, how we ensure public safety, and how we store, access, and share information. And although there are many statistics available, these are some of the key metrics that really drive home for us the importance of broadband. 98% of students report that they use the internet in school, with 31% of students say they're required to use the internet outside of school to complete homework assignments. More than 85% of colleges receive applications online. From these stats, it's very clear nearly all students today are using the internet in school to learn and succeed. Any New York State child without access to the internet is at a profound disadvantage. But broadband is equally important for adults. Nearly 80% of job seekers used online resources in their most recent job search, and more than half of these indicate it was the critical factor in obtaining work. Millions of New Yorkers are telecommuting, using broadband to start businesses, and even receiving medical care at home. So it's very clear, broadband is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Right here, closer to home, in the Mid-Hudson region, broadband access is also a concern. The biotech and high-tech industries are prominent in this region, as you all know well, employing more than 170,000 people, more than any other sector. However, communities here lack adequate access to broadband. In fact, right here in Ulster County, 87% of homes lack broadband at the governor's goal of 100 megabits per second. And next door in Sullivan County, the figure is 100%. Not even one home has access to broadband at 100 megabits per second. This situation is playing out across the state. As we can see on this slide, in communities across New York, far too few people have access to broadband at the speeds necessary to power success and to power businesses. And that's just not acceptable. Without access, communities are left behind. Businesses and jobs are at risk of relocating from New York to states where broadband is available. And it's for this reason, and to address this gap, that Governor Cuomo, Lieutenant Governor, and other leaders have made access to broadband a top priority of the administration. And today, we begin to address this challenge as we jumpstart the governor's bold vision of broadband for all. We're very pleased to announce the launch of the new New York Broadband Program, a $1 billion public-private partnership initiative aimed at ensuring that all New Yorkers have access to broadband with speeds of 100 megabits per second by 2018 at the end of that year. A statewide RFP has been released today and will be available this afternoon on the Broadband Programs Office website. The program RFP today will enable us to implement key requirements pursuant to the goals set forth by the governor. And they're set forth on this slide. I'll run through a few of those with you right now. First, every project must offer internet speeds of at least 100 megabits per second. Provided that in areas where no commercial bids are received at 100, the program will accept lesser speeds subject to a 25 megabit minimum in the most remote and rural areas of the state. The technology to be utilized must be proven and capable of meeting the governor's speed goals. For this reason, fiber optics and cable technologies will be given preference, although bidders will be able to submit for other technologies as well and supply supporting documentation. Bidders must provide matching funds targeted at 50% of the eligible project costs across the entire program. As per the appropriation that was supported by the legislature, priority will be given to unserved areas of the state, libraries, and educational opportunity centers, and that's reflected in the program design. Bidders must demonstrate suitable fiscal standing and management capabilities in line with all ESD programs, and each bid must cover a minimum territory. And finally, just a word on pricing. Since the projects will be funded by state dollars, we won't be regulating pricing, but some basic consumer protection must be afforded. For this reason, the program incorporates a requirement that applicants offer what we call a broadband tier, which is a minimum of 25 megabits at no more than $60 a month, which is in line with the national pricing that you'll see rolled out by Chairwoman Zibelman in a few moments. There are, of course, other details and specific terms that will be included in the RFP, and I'll let you guys have a chance to peruse those when they are available. In terms of the program design, rather than extend this program over multiple rounds, we've decided to launch the program today attacking all remaining unserved and underserved areas of the state based on the additional points that will be made relative to the Time Warner Cable merger in one RFP. This bold step will allow us to work with providers to deliver broadband to the people who need it as soon as possible and in time to achieve the governor's goal of December 2018. Second, applications will be funded and evaluated through a reverse auction process. Whereas a typical auction employs the highest price to sell a good or an item, a reverse auction awards broadband contracts to the lowest bidder, the bidder willing to provide an upgrade for a town or community at the lowest possible price. In doing this, we will award funding to projects requiring the lowest state investment on a subsidy per household passed basis. The last point is regional. In case there are differences within the state, where one region might have denser homes and another might have sparser communities, we will run each auction separately for each of the 10 REDCs, all of which I will note will receive some funding and some allocation within this program. Having separate auctions reflects the different geographies and cost structures of each area and ensures that every region will receive broadband funding subject to reasonable bids within each category. Although we expect to make substantial progress with this RFP, we will continue after this RFP to fund and address additional unserved areas in subsequent funding rounds until the governor's goals are reached. With that, I would like to turn the podium over to PSC Chair Audrey Zibelman. We're going to run through the TWC merger, and then we'll have some maps to show the impact of these combined announcements at the end of this presentation. This is the timing, so I'll leave that slide up.
Thank you, Jeff, and also thank you, Lieutenant Governor. It's really a great honor and great pleasure to be here today and be part of what I really do think is the dawning of the new age for New York. So in 2014, Governor Cuomo passed a law which required the commission, when approving large cable mergers like the Time Warner Charter merger, to make sure that it was in the public interest. And this is very, very important, because prior to that time, all cable companies needed to do was essentially show no harm. But today, because of the strength in law, what we were required to look at is to make sure that we looked at the conditions of this very, very critical merger for the state, that not only was there no harm, but that the public was benefited. and that as the commission found, that there were concrete commitments that were being made to the state of New York. So in the end of the day, that we could see that the public interest was served. So as a result, we approved the merger today with a number of conditions that I'm going to go over. But most importantly, in addition to the broadband program that was just announced, this merger will provide in and of itself more than $1.1 billion of economic benefits in New York in the form of investment and consumer benefits. So let me talk about some of the things that are in the order. The order should be available either later today or on Monday, but there will be details that are going to be available as well through other communications. So the first issue is speed. We can't live in the 21st century without broadband speeds that are at the level, as Governor Cuomo said, at least 100 megabits and more. So one of the things that we've said in the merger is, and consistent with the broadband program, we're going to require Time Warner to make sure that Charter to make sure that all of its customers are being served at 100 megabits per second, the broadband standard, by 2018. What's more is, as you see, is that in downstate regions such as New York City and Long Island, we're seeing the speeds above 100 megabits. The Time Warner promised that they would get to this max speed of 300 megabits a second throughout the country, and we're requiring them to commit that by 2019, all of their franchise areas will get that speed, so even greater than we were expecting. The other piece is the unserved areas. There are many, many places in New York where people simply don't have access to competitive broadband. One of the things that is very critical, obviously, in the broadband program and in terms of the merger is that every New Yorker, wherever they live, wherever they go to school, wherever they work, have access to the type of broadband that we're going to need to compete in the 21st century. So one of the other aspects of the merger is that Charter is going to be required to provide 145,000 new consumers access, or areas, residences and businesses, access to 100 megabits and above over the next 4 years. So that is a very, very critical piece, because this is, as you'll see, will allow us in the state to make sure that every New Yorker has access to the type of broadband service that we're going to need. The other piece is the digital divide. There's too many people in New York who simply can't afford to have broadband. And as Jeff said, this is an essential service. You can't go to school, you can't get jobs, you can't talk to people. There's so many things that you can't do, and so we needed to make it affordable. So one of the aspects of this merger is we're requiring New Charter to live up to its commitment to provide a low-income program that goes beyond what any other program has done, because not only are we going to ensure that school individuals who are able to participate in free lunch programs at school are eligible, but the program also extends eligibility to people who are on Social Security programs that are seniors people. So it expands it much further than any program has ever had. The other piece of this that I think is really important is that other low-income programs offered service, but they offered it at very, very slow speeds. This program is going to be required to offer it to people at 30 megabits, which is more than enough to get them into the fast highway for broadband. And we're also requiring them not to require credit checks, which is also very important for low-income people who are trying to get on broadband. This is something that the Commission heard a lot about in our public hearings across the state, and we're simply saying that enough is enough. These people, everybody needs to get good access. The other piece is that we're requiring access to 50 community centers, and the other element is that Time Warner today offers a program called Everyday Low Price, which is at $14.99. It's a program that many people like. It doesn't have the speeds we want, but we didn't want people to feel that at the end of this merger they were being forced to programs they didn't want. So Charter is going to be required to extend that service for 3 years for everybody who's on it, and for 2 years for people who want to get on it. The other aspect is price savings. This is also very important. One of the things that we want to do is that we see there are a lot of folks who are now saying, look, all I want is standalone broadband. I don't want bundled service. So one of the pieces that we're requiring is that they offer a standalone program at an affordable price at a good speed. But the other piece is that we don't want to see, oh, I can get it for $60 in the city, but I have to pay $200 if I go upstate. So we're requiring them to offer it at that price across the state, which I think is very, very important. That in and of itself is going to save consumers close to $125 million a year from what they have today. The other piece that's important for the commission is customer service. This is something we heard a lot about. I think it's an area, in fact, that the whole industry needs to improve. I hate to say this, but nobody really likes their cable company. It's one of the biggest complaints that we get, and so we're going to look for ways to improve service. We're asking New Charter, as part of their commitment to the state, to improve customer service by showing a reduction in complaints to our office by 35% over the next 4 years. We're also asking them to spend $50 million to improve customer service. And then the last is workforce protection. One of the things that we know is very clear around mergers is that people look for synergies, cost savings. We can't have those cost savings to occur at the expense of customer service or at the expense of workers. So we were asking, as part of this merger, for them to make a commitment that over the next 4 years there will be no net reduction in workforce of customer-facing jobs in New York. One of the things that we have to do is make sure that these conditions are very specific, that they're enforceable. And so if they fail to meet the terms, there will be penalties. And as a result, and this is the drum roll that we will do together, we really feel that we've honored Governor Cuomo's commitment to get where we need to do for cable. So let me just start, if I can. This is the picture today of where New York is in terms of 100 megabits of broadband service. And if you say a picture is 1,000 words, a map is 10,000. And I'll give this to Jeff to hold on. This is the next picture. This is where we will be with the build-out requirement that we're requiring for Time Warner. If we go to the next one.
With the speed upgrades.
This is with the speed upgrades at 100 megabits. So this is what it's going to look like with the speed upgrades from 2018 and 19. This is what New York will look like when Time Warner does its 145,000 megabits per second build out.
And the next piece will be the new New York Broadband program, which will be seeking to fill in the gaps there and will be represented under the RFP that was released today, as a result of which New York State will achieve a state of broadband for all.
Yeah, all right.
And because I didn't do it in the beginning, I also want to thank, actually, the Department of Public Service staff and our commissioners, but also really our partners at Broadband, who really, really helped us think through where do we need to go, and we wouldn't be here today without them. So thank you.
Hello? All right, folks, now we're going to do a quick Q&A. So if you can raise your hand, please. If you have any questions.
Hi, Jonathan Drapkin, Sullivan County resident. Couldn't thank you enough. That's just great. And I saw the list of items there that are all things that are really great. We talk about this in the school systems, in K through 12 all the time, that the speeds aren't high enough. But when you talked about enforcement to ensure the public is protected by the merger, you said penalties, one word. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on how you do intend on enforcing it?
Certainly, and thank you. There are a number of different ways that the department will enforce it, one of which is that we want to make sure that there is complete reporting. So we will have continuous monitoring against the various standards to make sure that charter is fulfilling its obligations, and that secondarily that the commission also has penalty rights, and so there are several penalties that are built into failing to meet conditions, but we also have under the public service law, again as a result of the strengthened law that we've gotten under Governor Cuomo, the ability to insist that there is compliance with monetary penalties or actions taken.
Hi, Dave Wolf with adkaction.org. I come from an area very close to where you landed in the snowy Adirondacks. The good news, everybody, despite the late winter, skiing at Whiteface is very good.
Oh, good.
Jeff, Jeff, question. Going back to the map, not the very last one, but the one before it, my question is eligibility for that, I'll call it phase one in the RFP. Can you get a little bit more detail as to what areas you're looking for to be involved in that first phase?
Sure. Thanks for the question, and good news about the skiing. We've released the, as I mentioned, the request for proposals today, and we have a section on eligibility. So later today when that's posted, folks can look at that and see exactly the requirements. But it's pretty much open to any telecom company that wants to participate. So, and if it's a municipality that would like to provide its own service, they can also bid in partnership with a telecom company. The proviso is that the bidding entity needs to be appropriately qualified in terms of the ability to operate a network, either a wired or a wireless network, have a certain number of customers already so they can show that they qualify. And then there's standard qualifications for ESDs, such as audited financials and a financial match, as I mentioned, and showing that they have the financial wherewithal to complete the project. But in general, it's open for telecom companies that want to participate.
Okay, great. And we're going to take a couple more questions.
Good morning, good afternoon. Jim Taylor, Taylor Biomass Energy. This reminds me of about 55 years ago when the state actually auctioned off the first cable TV franchises. When you think about it, the same thing 55 years ago, and amazing enough, Alan Gary Cablevision being one of those first successful awardees under that New York State auction process. So amazing history. 55 years later it took to do this. So tremendous congratulations. My question is, how will the benefits that are talked about today actually be delineated from this merger process for the public perspective?
The merger commitments require the company to deliver the benefits. So in terms of, in the order itself, we articulate where, in fact, the economic value is going to come from. But, for example, the low-income benefits programs, we expect 700,000 of new people to be able to sign up for and get internet broadband that didn't have it before. In terms of the economic benefits associated with the change in prices, as I mentioned, we look at that as about $125 million a year. There's many, many different types of benefits, but mostly, I mean, is it's going to be around the fact that all Time Warner customers now are going to get the speeds they need at the prices they need and the choices they want. Charter customers.
Okay, and I
we
think
will get that soon.
Sorry, Chairwoman. I think we have time for one more question. If you can raise your hand, please.
Patrick Alpin, a quick question about this reverse auction. How is that different than just a simple low bid, and how do you guarantee that you're getting the type of provider necessary and capable to do the work?
Sure. Well, thanks for the question. We built a lot of protections into the document. As was mentioned in the prior question, was actually very interesting when we looked at designing the program. We looked back at many federal and state programs that have been done across the entire United States. This isn't the first one. There have been others. And the BTOP, the broadband program as part of the American Recovery Act in 2009 was actually the biggest one. It's about a $7 billion program. And they did it through kind of an allocation, and they had committees to look at it. And after it was completed, there was an open letter written by 50 economists who across the country who said that they believed the most fair, transparent, and efficient way to fund broadband projects was through a reverse auction. So as we started looking more into it, we thought, this is a terrific way to go. It's transparent. We'll be very clear about the cities that are available for bidding, and companies can come in and they can bid, and the lowest price wins. The maybe catch, or what you need to be careful about, is what you said, which is how do you make sure that you get quality? Sometimes you get what you pay for. You have to make sure we get quality. So we've been very clear in the guidelines that the technologies have to be state-of-the-art. They have to be state-of-the-art technologies that will deliver the governor's speed goals of 100 megabits or better. And so pre-qualified is fiber optics all the way to the home, or cable systems along the lines of, the ones we saw today, which are obviously very capable of delivering those types of speeds. So we will have a very strict and regimented way of looking at, are you providing those types of technologies, and is the network design basically vetted, and is the provider vetted according to what I mentioned a moment ago. But based on that, we think the process should lead to a very terrific result. And at the end of the day, of course, the awards will be reviewed by experts, and even if someone's a low bid and they seem to qualify, at the end of the day, the ESD and the experts who are awarding the bids will have to make sure that they are comfortable. But that's the basic process, and I think we feel pretty good about it. But we'll see, and we'll keep a close eye on things as they go forward. So thank you for the question.
Well, I believe it's very clear to all of us that in today's economic landscape, high-speed internet and internet connectivity is essential to all of our lives, our work, our businesses, certainly for the operations of a top-quality higher educational institution like SUNY New Paltz. Our students need this capability, as you've heard. Our teaching, learning, and research missions rely on it, and our students will, as they leave our campus, enjoying the world of work. I support the governor's initiative and applaud New York State's leadership in broadband expansion, increasing economic and social opportunities for all of us, for our students, and for our children. Before I close, I have a small gift for the Lieutenant Governor, if I can find it here, which is a product of our innovative and rapidly expanding 3D printing capability that we were pleased to showcase her earlier this morning. And we want to present this to you as a small token of remembrance for your day here at New Paltz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.